Okay. I think maybe we're on. I don't know. Let's see.
Maybe
okay.
people can see us.
We appear to be on Twitch. I'll put my headphones on and make sure that I can hear the sound.
Do I have headphones?
I believe this group has the ability to make a real difference. I'm talking about improving a lot of
Okay. I can hear me talking. Hopefully we're loud enough.
We need a base that can support everyone here. It's time we built our home into a fortress.
Yeah, Monkey Mojo, we're just doing the pre-stream right now. This isn't the proper experience that we're hoping people will be having. We're going to have a nice, be much bigger on the screen in a bit. We just, we want to make sure that our sound's working and everything before we kick everything off for good. So it looks like we're coming through on Mixer, and it looks like we're coming through on YouTube. So I think we're on all 3 platforms. Could somebody on each of those platforms tell me if you can hear our voices clearly enough over the game audio? Because that'll be important for us to know. Are you hearing enough sound to operate?
Iffy.
I can tune it up a little bit because these shotgun mics are pretty good at not picking up the game. Just enough feedback to...
Yeah, we'll find out. I mean, what's the worst that can happen?
Weird echoey sounds.
Oh, I meant me being eaten by zombies that I can't hear.
Oh, right. So I did not have time to set up our cameras to be better right now, so I'm on here twice because, you know, can't get enough of looking at my own self.
Who can?
So folks on YouTube are telling me that they can hear me. Joe Bob says we seem like we're more quiet than usual. Let me see.
How about now? Does this sound quiet?
Looks like our mic could be raised just a little bit. So I'm raising the mic just a little bit. Hopefully we won't get too loud.
Do walking around my house.
Deathstroke thinks it sounds good. Riff Raff says we're coming in clear. So I just raised our audio just slightly. I'm worried about us redlining a little bit. We are getting into the yellow zone, but you guys tell us if this sounds okay. We're going to start the proper stream in about 11 minutes. So if you're just joining us, we're not in the proper stream yet. This is our first stream of the new year, though, which is pretty cool.
Happy New Year!
Oh, it just occurred to me. I didn't actually... What did I say here? Next year? Yeah, that's not going to work. Let me just edit this text real quick. I forgot to do this. Let's not say come join us next year. That doesn't make any sense. Come join us next week makes way more sense. All right, so that'll be good. So at the end of the show, that's what we're going to see. Next week, Tuesdays at 2 Pacific. Anyway, back to this view.
Zombies.
So Nathan wants to know, before the stream properly starts, when the next update is coming out. We haven't made any announcements about that. In fact, I don't think we are even certain ourselves exactly when the next iteration of the game comes out. This year, we have announced that this year at some point we're going to get an increase, an optional increase in the difficulty level of the game. And we're also going to get some kind of return to Trumbull Valley type experience. So those will both happen sometime this year, but we haven't made any promises about exactly when. So we're going to be cagey about that for a little while because we want to make sure that we know that we can deliver on the dates that we announce before we say anything.
A lot of us just got back from holiday break. We're barely even functional.
Yeah.
Don't ask us to commit to things.
So P1 says hey to both of us, by the way.
Hey.
Let's see here. Oh, Hardman Burwell wants to know if we feel comfortable with Microsoft. Definitely, one of my family members had a doctor's appointment today, and we are very happy to have Microsoft supported benefits.
I, for one, welcome our new corporate overlords.
Yeah, no, it's nice to. There's definitely a lot of advantages to having a large company supporting you, and to not be floating free out on your own. So
And I'd like to remind them that I can be trusted to count it on to round up any recalcitrant employees who are giving trouble and keep them mining in the underground sugar reserves. Yes. Oh wait, those are our ant overlords. Sorry, I said too much.
Ashax, I can't give you any details about difficulty mode.
No details.
No details. We haven't announced anything, and it's not my place. I'm not actually on that team, so I probably don't even know all the detailed answers to all of your questions.
Oh, I filled up the water cooler.
P1 Gamer is admiring my very bright hair. We dyed it specifically to match the color of the stream.
That's hardcore.
Yeah, I'm very serious about it. I don't know. I might not go orange again like this for a while after this. I don't know. At some point, I mean, I am 40. At some point, it does get silly. You don't think so?
Nope.
All right. Maybe not.
I went blonde for Dread Pirate Roberts at Halloween, and I'm older than you.
That's true. That's true. And I did look, yeah, both of those are very true. And
Thanks.
Just kidding.
Wow.
But that did look really good, actually.
There's still a 4 at the front of my age for a while longer.
No, I went on a walk with some of our colleagues, and they kept talking about, oh yeah, just the struggles we go through as mid-30s people, and I'm like, yeah, us mid-30s people. That's what it's like to be in your mid-30s. Us people born in the 1980s. Yep, it's really hard. I'm like sitting here. I was born in the 70s.
There's a great line from a Jonathan Colton song, which is itself almost 10 years old at this point.
Oh my gosh!
About a character who he's sort of speaking on behalf of the songwriter. The line is something like, "And I still can't believe there are people who were born in the 90s."
Yeah, there are adults.
Yeah.
Probably colleagues of ours who were born in the 90s.
Yep.
Which is just nuts.
Yep. All right, I'm cooped up in this house.
SXO, I promise I have heard you about the Army fatigues, and I'm working on it. It's just there's a lot of priorities on the plate, and I'm trying to work that in. But that is something I've definitely heard, and it's on the top of one of my lists. So, Riff Raff says, I think I can just remember my 30s, just barely. I can't remember most of my life. I can't remember half of being 40, and I've only been 40 for about 8 months. So. Kermit wants to know if we'll ever add new cars. I'm not sure.
Well, I mean, we if you mean like brand new models, that's a lot of work. We did put the Wizard Van into the game for everybody for free.
Yeah, that was
right before Christmas.
That's pretty cool of us. We found a Wizard Van lying around, like, oh hey, Christmas present. It's kind of like when you're going to a White Elephant gift and you like kind of scour your house and you're like a White Elephant
don't
party.
Tell people that we regifted.
You're like going through. Like,
never
oh hey, look at this thing. We've never used this. Let's just throw it in as a gift. It's fine.
Hey, that's a bloater.
P1 is imagining you also with orange hair.
I don't know. I'm not sure I'm bold enough. My wife has had purple for
she's got like
over
now,
a year now. It's
purple.
Yeah, she's been doing purple pretty regularly for a while. It's faded a little over the fall. She's been looking to get it refreshed, just hasn't gotten around to it.
Yeah, my daughter went purple a little while ago. It's like she like from like her hair is like past shoulder length, and she started midway down and went purple down to the bottom, and then it's faded all the way to the bleach blonde now. So now she puts it back in a ponytail or in a bun, and so she's just got like brunette hair and then like a blonde ponytail. It's like right on the line.
Yeah,
which is it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's weird at this point. I look at pictures of my wife from even a couple years ago. I'm like, oh yeah, your hair hasn't always been purple. It's funny how used to something you get.
Yeah, I know exactly. It's like your brain just has one slot for what something looks like or what somebody looks like, and when you change it, when somebody changes it, it just overwrites. It's weird for me to look at pictures of my children when they were younger. Like Facebook just popped up a reminder from 7 years ago of the video I took of my now 7-year-old crawling for the first time. And I was like, she doesn't even look like herself. Like, I learned so much about who this person is and imprinted so much stuff in my brain about who this little girl is. And seeing that baby, I'm like, I had no idea. I didn't even know this person yet.
Today on the State of Decay stream, raising children, they grow up so fast.
That
zombies.
is every conversation anyone has with me. Baron Ketterman, we got no dates for anything right now, unless you're just talking about today's date, in which case it's the 8th of January.
Is it? Is that true?
Yes, it is the 8th of January, 2019, if you can believe it.
I reached the point, some point last week, of I had been off of work long enough that I could no longer remember what day of the week it was. It was pretty glorious. It's been a long time since I had that feeling.
Yeah, I know. It's a lot of us took, like, I have lots of friends who chose this year to take their first 2-week vacation in a really long time. I didn't even do it. I think I was off for like a week and a half if you count the weekends. And But it's funny. I came back, but enough people were out. were out extra time. I came back. I'm like, oh, there's no one to talk to. I just gotta, which is sometimes great. So if you got a lot of work to do, just having nobody to talk to is actually really good.
So many zombies.
But a lot of
Who put all the zombies in this game?
a lot of work you do, as a designer is collaborative. Though.
Yes.
It's hard to be in the office alone and get everything done.
Yep. Yeah, you get to a point and you just go, oh, I can't move on that. I can't make decisions on that. I've got to include other people.
Yeah.
It would just be flat out rude.
We got 2 minutes until the stream starts for reals. So, by the way, Andy is our guest because he was in our Dev of the Month article. In fact, we probably have Megan in the chat. I don't know if we have Megan in the chat, but whether we do or not, I think I've got a link here that I can post. So let me make sure this works. See if that goes through. Yeah, I think that's going through. So we've got a link to the article about Andy, which is, he basically just
How did you get me out here without snacks?
Oh, I don't know. You're the one who left the house. I just distracted you with a bunch of questions from the chat, or comments from the chat. Anyway, Andy is he is a designer. He is also our lead writer. He marshaled an entire team of writers to come up with the dialogue and other aspects of the writing in State of Decay 2. So if you have any questions for him, be thinking of him because what we'll be talking about is what he does. In addition to to a few other things, we'll be playing obviously some State of Decay 2, and there's a community event going on. The State of Decay Awards that Blaze Experience has set up. So there's a few things to talk about.
Are we up for anything?
Yes, we're up for all of them. We're up for about half of them. Half of the awards are for community members, and half of them are for features of State of Decay.
Sweet.
Like, what's your favorite gun? What's your favorite map? What's your favorite, stuff like that.
That's a good question.
So yeah, so we could. I mean, we maybe we should just go through the ballot and give our answers.
I wouldn't want to taint the voting. Oh,
that's true. That's true. Yeah, we should give that some space.
Actually, no, I have no problem taking the vote whatsoever.
So Hardman Burwell, he asks what it's like to have access to the technologies being developed by other Microsoft studios. And the problem is when you're building a game studio, building your particular set of technology is actually a very, very intricate and difficult process. It's not actually very easy to just pass things around from studio to studio. It takes a lot of time and effort to integrate something. And so if we, for instance, were going to, like you were suggesting, the performance capture work that they do over at Ninja Theory, if we were to incorporate that into a game of ours, we would have to build up the local technology and skill for that ourselves. We could probably learn a lot from them, but it would still have to be a homegrown operation to get that up and running. So it would be a lot of investment. We would have to be sure we were working on a game that would benefit from it as much as Ninja Theory's games benefit from that. I mean, because the kinds of games that Ninja Theory makes is all about the character performance. That's the number one thing that just knocks your socks off when you're playing a Ninja Theory game. With us, we're actually, there's sort of different, broader issues that are trying to get your attention, and that close-in character performance is not one of the top experiences you're trying to get out of a game like ours. And so, we would have to kind of shift the focus of the game a lot to really, be able to get much benefit from that technology. But at the same time, our random character generation technology is probably something that Ninja Theory doesn't have, but don't particularly want. They make some very specific, bespoke characters in their games. And so, we're still going to maintain our identities as separate studios, but at the same time, if we ever do shift into an area that one of these other studios is an expert in, having the advantage of being a part of a larger organization that has access, that kind of thing, will be huge. Yeah. Just no guarantee that we'll want to go after any particular technology that you can think of.
I'm sure that, particularly on our, there went my sword, on our engineering side, we have programmers who are thinking about, how to optimize that sort of cross-discipline knowledge. And ooh, yeah, what do I want to shoot here?
Oh crap! It's after 2. We should get started for reals.
Hi, everybody.
Just a second. We're gonna go dark for just a second, and then we'll come back and have some fun. Oh, hi! Welcome to the State of Decay 2 stream. I'm your host, Jeffrey Card, and they can't see you yet. Now they can see you. This is Andy Collins.
Hi, everybody.
Andy Collins is a designer and also the lead writer of State of Decay 2, and he's here because he was our Dev of the Month. If you go to our website, you can see there's a Dev of the Month article all about Andy. And so we wanted to introduce him to you guys if you don't know him already. A lot of you have seen him on this stream many times because he's actually one of our favorite co-hosts to have. But if you don't know him very well, be thinking of questions for him. He goes to into a lot of detail about where he came from, his background and stuff in the article. So if you go check that out, I think Megan might post a link to the article in the chat. If you want to check that out, start coming up with questions for the guy because we want to get to know this dude a little better than we do. But here we are. He's playing the game right now, so if he looks preoccupied, that's probably why. He's sitting there in the game we've been playing. We've been playing this saved game for 8 months now or 7 months now? How long has it been since the game came out? Because we started this saved game pretty much right at release.
Wow, this is the same game? Crazy.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure we have never legacied. We've just been maintaining the same.
We're not super focused.
We did jump maps one time. I think we started. I don't remember if we start. I think we started in Meager Valley, and now I believe we're in Cascade Hills. But that's the one thing we had to refresh because we were completely out of resources for a while. But let's see here. Oh, so Joe Bob has a question. He asked, "Is the network going to be involved in our Trumbull Valley expansion?" Which is the kind of question we can't answer.
Too early to discuss details. I'm glad you're interested in that sort of a question. Both Jeffrey and I are fans of the factions that we've built and the small amount of story we've been able to tell for them. They're clearly not the focus of our game. That's your survivors, your community. But we like the depth they add to the world, and it's nice that people are curious about them. So yeah, we'd like to tell some more stories about Network and Red Talon.
That is a very good answer, because it reveals absolutely nothing, but still it reveals our passion, which I think is important.
There you go.
But yeah, the point that you made, though, about how the story of State of Decay is really not about any of these broader things. Like, the stories that we want to tell about these factions and the sort of the history of our world, like, those are fun stories for us to tell, but really, we always try to maintain in our minds the fact that the real story of State of Decay is the story that you tell with your community.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that makes us...
Oh, hey.
Fire.
What even happened? Okay. Was that a feral that was coming out?
Yeah, sure was. Got a little exciting there.
Still exciting. You're running straight towards a horde.
They'll never expect it. Oh, that feral is on fire, and now so am I.
Oh yeah. Ferals are immune to fire, aren't they?
Are they? Why
remember.
would we do that?
Yeah, that doesn't seem very intelligent. Now that I think about it. Is this going to be the end of Toro here?
Wait, his name is Toro?
His name is Toro, yeah.
Any old school Marvel Comics fans understand why a dude named Toro who's on fire, if that's significant, post. If you get that reference. Oh, there's also a Juggernaut down there. I'm never coming down from this building. There's a tent. I'm just going to live here for the rest of my life.
So we're getting a lot of questions about when future expansions of State of Decay 2 are going to come out. And the answer to all of them is we haven't announced any dates yet, and we're still working on both of the expansions we've announced. The one that increases the difficulty level of the game, optionally, if you want it, and the one that lets you return to Trumbull Valley. We're still working hard on both of those things, and we're not to the point where we're ready to say exactly when they're coming out.
Yeah, way too early to discuss those details.
But it will be, like, right now the plan is for it to be sometime this year, though. We have announced we want to do it sometime this year.
That is now technically this year, no longer next year.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. We've been saying next year for so long, I'm kind of surprised I didn't say it that way. Because on our last stream, I misidentified what year it was. So that is a thing that I do. So, one person requested specifically that that Lily and Marcus come back for the Trumbull Valley expansion, and that'll be that's an interesting thing. So Lily already has returned. She has a voice on the radio. You know that she's alive. In our game. Marcus, that's a different challenge because I know for me one of the most memorable parts of my State of Decay 1 story was the death of Marcus. And so for me, I kind of, I don't want Marcus in my game because that would undermine the experience that I had. But it's a tough question.
Yet one of the other ways that the storytelling that we use in this game is weird and different. Ooh, that was exciting.
Yeah.
Like this is not like the stories that are told in most other games. In fact, it's difficult for me to think of any game that tabletop, computer, or otherwise that tells stories in quite this way. Can't be focused on any one person in your community. Wow, that just bounced off of him. That was crazy.
That's awesome.
Like anybody can die, so stories about your community rather than one character. You want continuity, but not so much that it threatens believability. It's a weird story. It's fun to work on, but it's all we learn new challenges about how to tell good stories in this environment, really all the time.
It's one of the most fun things about working in an industry or in a medium that is still emerging. Like, people haven't quite figured out video games yet. We're still, every new video game is inventing things and is coming up with new ideas. And so each thing you take on in this industry it's a brand new challenge. And so like with storytelling in State of Decay, we're doing weird stuff that there isn't just a playbook to tell you how to do it, and so that means we're going to make mistakes. It means there's going to be places where we wish something was more satisfying than it was, but it's this huge opportunity for us to try new things and learn about our craft. A lot of people protesting against me that saying Marcus is eternal and Maya and Marcus never die. So you see, clearly it's possible to have different perspectives about the story of our game.
Yeah.
So one question that was asked in the wake of the article for you was Jackie D. Watson wants to know, what is your favorite thing about making State of Decay?
My favorite thing about making State of Decay? There's so many answers to this question. I was actually thinking about this earlier because I had a feeling a question like this might pop up. I think as a designer and a writer, my favorite part of the experience was simply engaging with the process of writing and recording voiceover dialogue for so many characters. I had done a little of that before in a previous job, writing dialogue for a bunch of Marvel superheroes on a game, which was super fun. But that's a little less real than writing for people who are supposed to be actual folks. So building a team of freelance writers that at times numbered as many as 20 folks.
Which is ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. It's stupid ridiculous. I don't recommend. Do not do this at home. So building that team so that we could get a really broad variety. This is dumb. Run. A really broad variety of voices in my writer's room, so to speak, so that we could create a nice broad variety of voices for the characters that you play and meet. That was really important. So that the first half of that was the building the team and working with folks, some of whom I knew and had worked with before. Others were brand new to me, I'd never met. Discovering all those folks, as far as I was concerned, many of them were real writers. I didn't discover many people here. And building those characters was a lot of fun. And then just engaging with the entire process of recording voiceover. We had an amazing cast of talented actors, talented directors who helped bring these folks to life. Sitting in the booth and watching the audio engineers work. Immensely talented and to a one of them, every single one, friendly, professional, nice to work with. It was an amazingly positive experience and made me realize that, wow, this is a neat thing to do. I like working on voice dialogue and working on recording. It's just a fun process. Laborious, exhausting, but fun. I had no idea what that process was really like, and now after spending hours and hours in the booth, I have some inkling of what it's like. I won't say I'm an expert. That's a long way off still.
Got a lot more experience doing that than a lot of people, even a lot of people who've worked on multiple video games. I know because I used to be involved in the voice recording booth a lot, in past games that I worked on. Never as much time as you spent doing it.
So yeah, I think that just that learning what it's like to help bring voices to life. Hey, we got a special returning star.
Ow!
He couldn't stay away.
I missed my doctor's appointment, so
Oh.
I came in to say hello.
So look, we got Brant, everybody. we've been getting a few questions about disease in the game. People asking, are we going to add like another disease that's even more deadly than the blood plague? And we had one comment from Darth Necron saying that the disease that was called Black Fever in the original State of Decay should have made an appearance in State of Decay 2. So the idea was blood plague is actually another name for that same disease that people were getting in the original game. We decided to, it's actually really common, especially if you've got, a bunch of different people living in tiny little enclaves all over a widespread out area, for them to have different names for things. And so there's a lot of different names we imagine in the world of State of Decay for the blood plague. Black Fever was what they called it in Trumbull Valley in State of Decay 1. But in State of Decay 2, the more common, more popular name, blood plague, is what took over. But it's meant to be the same disease. As far as how powerful and deadly it is, definitely stay tuned for future updates to the game. We've been talking about increasing the difficulty. That is one way that we could potentially increase the difficulty, is to take the blood plague that we've got and just make it more, more virulent, more, make it kill you faster, make it more catching. There's lots of options that we have on the table, so keep your eyes open for that. Oh, Garlic Burp says, "Aw, it's Snuggle Bear."
Oh, come on. And no, I won't dance, P1.
People are also
if I
asking
can
about
get this.
night vision goggles. That's kind of what the point of the Zedi was supposed to be. Like, it gives you the same benefits of night vision goggles without us having to solve the problem of attaching gear to characters' faces.
Well, and there's no more batteries in the apocalypse.
That's true. Actually, on it, like my son came up to me with his like little battery-powered car. He's like, "Daddy, fix it! Daddy, fix it!" I looked, and it's kind of translucent. I looked at it, it's like the batteries were 100% corroded, and I'm like, and that's just from this car being around our house for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, there's no way that people would be able to use a lot of battery-powered stuff too deep into the apocalypse. All those batteries are going to explode with like, corroded battery acid just all over them.
Well, and
Stupid realism getting in the way of our apocalypse fantasies.
night vision goggles go through batteries like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah, I'll bet.
I don't believe you.
You don't have to.
Okay.
So a lot of folks also they've been bringing up city maps, specifically the Danforth map in State of Decay Lifeline, which is expansion to the original State of Decay, and which might be relevant to our quiz question later on. So be thinking about your Lifeline trivia. But anyway, Danforth, it was a city, but you were never allowed to go deep inside the city. We made that a big danger zone. Zombies would spawn like crazy if you tried to get anywhere near it, and you weren't allowed to go and explore any of the tall buildings. And we've got some comments in the chat saying what I'd love to have is a fully explorable city, like Danforth, but you can actually go inside all of the buildings, and that is lovely to imagine. That does sound kind of neat. One of the problems though is that have you ever like actually explored every room in a skyscraper? There's a lot of them.
Yeah, we would end up having, just on the boring technical side, you would, to make that happen, it would require a level load every time you went into a large building.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, so one of the things that we take a lot of pride in our game is that we've sort of established a rule that if you see a building of any significant size, that you can go inside of it. And occasionally we've had to violate that rule slightly. We had to burn down a school that was too big for you to be able to go inside in the original State of Decay. We had to, pile up debris on the staircases leading up to the upper stories of a hospital.
We didn't burn
in
that
Drucker.
school down. We left it on fire forever.
Yeah,
The fires never went out. 5 years later, the fires still burn.
Yeah, but then we got the hospital in Drucker County that similarly you can't go in the upper stories, you can only go into the lower stories. And that's for a reason. I mean, we couldn't load the rest of the map if we had to keep the interior of that building available.
Because we have to, every time you get within range of those buildings, they have to they start loading all the things that are in there. And imagine 50 rooms in an office building that essentially have, that are a little bit different, but have tons of stuff in them. It would just be a nightmare.
You'll notice it in games like Grand Theft Auto or even like Red Dead Redemption. A lot of the buildings just have locked doors and you cannot go inside, and that's for a reason. Because it would just those games are very slick because they're very careful about how much they actually create and how much they just suggest in the background. And so because we're trying so hard to make our game have that level of realism where if you look in a building, you can go inside that building. We sort of made that rule for ourselves, but that meant we had to very carefully choose our locations So we were choosing reasonable locations where you actually could fulfill that fantasy.
Yeah.
So that means rural areas, outlying suburbs and places like that where you actually can, live that way in the game.
And the rural areas fit well into the faded Americana feel.
Yeah,
as well.
Yeah, the aesthetics that our art director Doug, really kind of zeroed in on. We've got just a lot of complementary things, right? We've got this faded Americana feel, that sort of like nostalgic vibe that goes right along with these rural settings, which coincidentally are the kinds of settings that we can create with the rule set that we want you to play with. So
I'd like to compliment Andy on luring all those zombies into the bad guys, including
that Feral,
Feral.
wow.
including Johnny Farrell over there.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the first times I met a hostile group in this game last year, I accidentally drew a juggernaut into their room.
Oh,
I have no
nice.
ammo. And it was so satisfying because it was not the way I had thought I was going to solve that problem. But it made me realize, that's one of the amazing
Use the
things.
fireworks. Yes.
Oh, sheesh.
Yes.
Is,
Yes.
that's the great thing about an open world game is, there's more than one way to
Yes.
solve
Yes.
a problem. Oh,
To skin a cat, a proverbial cat.
yes.
Now he's just dying of his infected burns. Oh wait, no, he's getting up. He's getting
That's
up.
right. Take care of business. Nice.
Sorry, I have to put you down. Hey, how's it going? How is it going,
I
Jim?
love that one zombie going, I'm out of here.
Yeah, I'm
Trying
gonna
to
crawl
crawl
away
away.
now. Yeah, I'm sure we could use you on our group. I'm gonna have you join Jeffrey's community here.
Now there's an idea: skyscraper mode in one
One giant building?
One building.
You do like
the raid.
like the raid or like Dread.
Yeah.
I would
Oh, yeah.
love to do zombie apocalypse in Dread. But it feels like it would be a different game though. Like one of the things that's nice about State of Decay 2 is how mutually self-supporting all the different parts of it are. The fact that the technical constraints, the gameplay that we want, and the art direction, the kind of settings that we have all support each other. If we were to do this kind of game but in a skyscraper, I'd almost want to just roll a whole new world. Just start over and be like, what kind of place would be interesting to explore? Maybe something like the arcologies of the Dread world would be a really cool place to explore. That's just off the top of my head. I am not promising any new games.
Yes.
Jeffrey, you heard it, guys. Jeffrey just promised a new game. That didn't restore
So-
all the health. How about that one?
Yeah, so we've got a lot of comments about different things that people would love for us to add to the game, and we right now what we're trying to do is figure out what are the best things we can do with the game as it works
That we have
right now.
Like
Yeah.
things like a weather system. Of course, we always wanted one, but the memory exchange on changing weather would just murder our system. So it's honestly, it's just not going to happen for State of Decay 2. It just won't. We don't-
Technical constraints are so frustrating,
They are, and
especially for people like me who don't understand them.
Yeah, though they do often lead to some of our, some of the most fun ideas to come up with are the workarounds around technical constraints. But the thing is, one of the things people were asking before the show, what are the advantages and the fun parts of having been bought by Microsoft? And one of them is that the reason Microsoft bought us was because they were making a long-term commitment to State of Decay as a franchise, and that means a lot to us because it means that a lot of these questions you guys are asking, a lot of these hopes and dreams that you're expressing are hopes and dreams of ours too. We would love to have people suggested motorcycles in the game. We would love to have a lot of these ideas come to life. We want them as much as you do, but we also fully understand the constraints that we're under with the current game, and so one of the most hopeful things that we can know is that in the future we're going to get to make more State of Decay, and maybe if an idea isn't really possible in this iteration of the game, maybe it'll be possible in the next one. No specific promises on that. We don't know what technical constraints we're going to be under in the next game, and what kinds of trade-offs we're going to have to make. But it does give me sort of hope that each game that we come up with, each entry in this franchise, gives us another opportunity to try new things and to maybe do a little bit more than we did before.
He said it.
So let's see. So that kind of one of the questions that was actually submitted for you, Andy, was what are some things you'd like to add to the State of Decay franchise in updates or in the future? Which is it's always a trap when people ask us those questions, and so
Yeah.
I like to say them out loud because it's fun to not answer them.
I think just for me, the concept of exploring the world of post-apocalyptic survival fantasy, like there's just more stories to be told, right? Like we've told some interesting ones between the 2 games and the expansions. Oh, here's where all the cars are.
Oh yes.
But you know, there's more to be told, and I look forward to telling more of those. I'm not bored with telling stories in this world yet.
Yeah, same here. You know, like I think probably the thing I'm most excited about is what's the character generation going to be like in the future of State of Decay? Because we've the original game had a lot of bespoke characters with random names, and it was a very simple system. And you had to play for a long time to notice that you were just getting a lot of repetitive characters. But then, you know, this game, we built this entire character generation system so that every character is unique. When you lose a character, that's it. You'll never see that exact same character again. And that was a lot of fun to come up with. And so, but we also learned a lot while we were building it. And so I'm really looking forward to getting started on the next version of our character generator. Seeing, you know, if we can take the lessons that we learned, try to make our characters more distinctive, easier for players to invest in. Right now, our characters are pretty complex. You have to do a pretty deep dive into them to understand who they are. And trying to solve that problem of making characters complex enough to be interesting, but also, you know, giving them a way to straightforwardly express who they are in a very quick way to the player, so you can get to know them fast and then get to know them better as you. Like that balance is very hard to strike, and I don't think we're perfect in State of Decay 2. I think we might be too complex, not quite comprehensible enough, and so I'd love to take another crack at it and see what character generation could be like in the future of State of Decay.
Yeah.
More pink guns? Is that what you got in mind?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely need some pink guns in there.
Wait,
Yeah,
did you say pink guns or paint guns?
Pink guns. I think that was one of Brant's favorite things in the original State of Decay.
Actually,
was
I
the
love
February challenge.
The February challenge, I loved that. That was a drum-fed AKMS
And you know,
that was painted pink with hearts on it.
and that is still available actually. So every month I get an email from somebody at Microsoft saying, "Hey, we're ready to launch the next Yo's challenge." And so those challenges that unlock
They just
those
keep
special
rolling
guns,
over.
they just keep rolling over. And so if you've got, especially if you bought the Ultimate Edition of State of Decay 2, but you never played the Year 1 Survival Edition that you got for free, go back and play it next month, because next month is when the February challenge is going to give you access to a pink gun covered in hearts. So you know, definitely keep that in mind if you've been holding off on checking out the original game.
Are you dropping meat out the back?
I am.
Oh, the van that farts meat is absolutely.
That's got to be the smelliest thing in the history of vans.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially because I imagine you found it already full of meat when you got
Yeah.
it, right? Like the meat was already there. It's been there since who knows how long.
Yeah.
So A Squad, we are watching the Twitch chat, we're watching the Mixer chat, we're watching the YouTube chat. We're just not watching them very well. So I have a tendency to just get talking, and when I'm talking, I'm not reading. So
We're kind of like Toons the driving cat. We can do it, just not very well. And if you get that reference, you're old.
Toots is the driving cat. That used to be one of my every iteration of that sketch was the same.
Yep.
None of them
Nope.
they would try to introduce new things, but really it was just let's watch a cat drive and then a car explodes.
They found a formula that worked. They stuck with it. Genius. All right, what do we got in this little town? Oh, a
Juan
gun
Carlos,
shop.
how do we balance animations versus player control of the character?
Oh my gosh.
That's a crazy spiderweb mystery that black magic that animators and programmers have to come up with, and you know,
Yeah.
different games do it, have completely different philosophies. Like the Assassin's Creed franchise started out with like tens of thousands of animation variants that would tree off of what you were doing and what the input was. So they had some really smooth transitions, and other games slow the character down so that whatever you do, even though it's slower and has fewer blends, it still doesn't jar you, but it's not as responsive. There's a bunch of different philosophies, and ours is just we tried to balance how accurate your intentions were and how they're related to what you're seeing in the game, because you're transitioning between shooting and then you have to switch over to melee real fast because you get jumped by a zombie. So ours are a little bit fast. Our transitions are faster, but that was strictly as a a choice to support gameplay.
And it's a very case-by-case basis thing too, right? Because sometimes, like the first iteration of some gameplay behavior in the character it'll skew a little heavily to having a fancy animation but not feeling responsive enough, and sometimes it'll do something that feels so responsive, but it also the character looks kind of weird doing it, and you just have to correct. You have to look at each case and be like, okay, this one we need to spend a little bit more time making sure that we're supporting the look and the animation, and then other ones you're like, we've got to get this more responsive to the player because things are happening the player is not expecting, and you want to be able to control this character as well as control your own body, which is not a standard we can actually meet. But especially in some cases, but it's. Yeah, no, it's definitely a challenge.
Ace Squad, no. We are not open to using a new engine on the next project.
Yeah, one of the things that was most difficult about making State of Decay 2 was the fact that we switched engines, and that takes a lot of time to build up the expertise with the new bunch of technology, and that's time that doesn't get spent on building the actual game itself. And so if we can stick with the same technology for the next iteration, that gives us so many more opportunities to do new things with the game and to do fancy things with the game. The Techno Geek asks, anything on the ability to change leaders without killing or exiling them? That's another thing that is high on the priority list, but that we have to get the right resources in place to make it happen.
It's a non-trivial task.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot of UI work, programming work. There's a lot to building a feature like that, and so we have to get the right people free to work on it instead of working on the other things that they're building all at the same time. And so it's high on the priority list, and we're working on it. But I'm working on finding the opportunity to do it.
It's a lot of tape and band-aids to remove carefully and put back after you're done.
One of the wonderful things about working in a smallish studio is that you get to know all the folks around you. One of the drawbacks is that there's often only one person in the studio that does a thing. Whether that's writing VO dialogue or creating UI assets or what have you, or overseeing your UX design. So it's very easy to get spread super thin, and we try to avoid doing that to those folks when we can. And what that means is sometimes
wants to be a bottleneck, right?
Yeah, what that means is sometimes we're like, well, no, you can't do that thing because there's literally nobody in the studio right now who has that expertise and is available. We'd have to take them off of some other project that we already decided was important. So.
The day we got bought by Microsoft, there wasn't 40 programmers who showed up with their with their kit in hand, ready to start programming. It's a building process, and we got to find the right people, and we'll see what happens with that, but. We do a lot of prioritizing as far as requests and things that we want to do to make the game better. So.
And that is definitely high on our list. That's something that we really do want to see. So one thing that's going on right now in our community that I should point out, by the way, is it's called the SOD Awards, or the State of Decay Awards. I don't know what the formal name of it is, but Blaze Experience, who's sitting there, he's in our Mixer chat, he could probably tell you guys anything you want to know about it. But basically, I just posted a link in our chat to a ballot where you can vote for your favorite community members and streamers. You can vote for your favorite maps and weapons and other aspects of the game. And I think the plan is to do basically kind of a little bit of an award show for State of Decay 2. So definitely go follow that link and check it out. I think there's already been over 100 votes, and would love to get all of you guys contributing to it.
By the way, I've been nominated for Best Hand and Foot Model. I would appreciate your support.
Yeah, and I think you and I are like head to head for best hair. So best scalp anyway. You can see both of our scalps really well right now.
You at least have something to play with up there.
This is basically like your chin beard. This is my equivalent of your
My
chin
hair
beard up
just my lack of hair just mocks me constantly.
here. No, I'm sorry. That was me that's mocking you.
Was it?
You'd be just fine. You'd be just fine without me. I think you need a world without me. Is
I haven't had hair for 30 years, so I'm over it. It's okay.
Oh, so yeah, K-Sizzle says that you're not going to get an I voted sticker, unfortunately, if you vote. But you'll get to feel like you're participating in an awesome community event, which Blaze Experience is setting
I'd like
up.
to
So
point out that K-Sizzle's favorite food is tacos. He will actually back me up on that.
So, Andy,
Yeah.
you are a designer. You're also a
I
writer.
am.
And
I'm that.
there's a lot of different parts of the game that maybe people don't always think about. That need a professional writer to pay attention to it. Because you wrote or you hired writers and edited a lot of voiceover, but you also had to contribute to a bunch of other parts of the game.
Yes,
too.
the voice is just a fraction of the total words. I don't know how most studios do their writing. I have not. My background is not in computer games. I came of age as a tabletop game designer, primarily in role-playing games. But once I moved over into computer games, they were in small studios that didn't really know what they were doing. So I just did things the way I thought they should be done, which meant basically I said, "Hey, if there's going to be words in this game, I want to see them." I don't have to always be the person that writes them, but for God's sake, I'm not going to allow us to publish a game with words that only one person has seen, because that's a terrible way to publish anything. No writer should edit their own work, and unedited work is even worse. So,
And it's also, it creates a sense of consistency, right? Because
among other things, yes.
Because their voice and tone are actually kind of a big deal. Like if all of our character traits were really just deadly serious and dark, but all of our item descriptions were weird and full of puns, that would be strange. That would be a strange experience, right?
There's more than just spelling and grammar. Making sure that someone who's got some experience in training and writing and editing is looking at stuff. Yeah, let's give them these materials. But yeah, establishing that sort of style guide and tone for your project is really, really critical. And having whether you call it a lead writer or an
editor,
it's like a mystery beat.
Hey, mystery meat, delicious.
Let's
take it home.
A lead narrative crafter or a showrunner, like however you call it, like having somebody whose job it is to look at everything and go, yeah, this meets our standards and our styles, I think is super critical. And I've seen too many games that either don't really do that or just sort of rely on lots of people in the studio to all understand that, and that's not necessarily realistic. Like, it's not fair for me to expect a programmer to master the ins and outs of complicated grammar in the English language, right? They have skills that I don't have. So
languages you don't know.
Right, and so let me help them by sharing the skills that I do have so that I can make their work look better and the game as a whole look better. So that was one of my goals. Oh, hey, Juggernaut. On the games that I've worked on is whenever possible, without being intrusive to the process, make sure that I'm helping all the words be better. This place again.
So that means when we add a new item, or when we add a
item
new piece
text,
of UI.
trait text, achievement text. I try to help out with any text that's going to go on the website or out in a tweet or in a marketing release. Even if I'm not writing it, I at least want to be that second set of eyes that helps their work be as good as it can be. I think that's super critical. When you're writing anything at all, doesn't matter what it is, whether it's game or a book or what have you.
And and the difference between because it's not just quality, it's also like we were saying, like style. Like you and I think do ellipses differently, and so the game would actually it would just feel a little bit kind of crappy if in one place it's my ellipses, and in another place it's your ellipses.
Yeah, I
because
mean-
that seems like it's a minor issue, but you notice it. There's something that makes it feel shoddy in your head if it's not consistent.
Right. There's all those little tiny issues of house style that if you've got a really good lead editor, and I learned from one of the best in Kim Mohan back at Wizards of the Coast, if you have a solid lead editor, I'm not to his level, you establish styles and you teach everybody to follow them, and then you come along behind and you make everybody's work better, right? Like Kim's name wasn't on the front of many books that Wizards published, but it was in the credits of almost all of them, and he was a super critical part of bringing those books up to the level of quality that the fans demanded and expected and deserved. And I feel like I'm trying to provide some of that same thing for State of Decay. So I help Brian with item text. I help Jeffrey with traits and achievements. I help everybody wherever I can.
Speaking
Hey, guys,
what?
I'm out.
Oh,
I
see
just
you later,
wanna
Brant.
come out and say hi. Say hi to Andy. Take care, everybody. Love y'all. I'm gonna go the other way.
Oh, yeah. I've blocked this way, barricaded this way with a chair right here. Normally, this chair is sitting back here, looking lonely, like there's somebody who's trying to join us. And so I thought I'd slide it over here so that Brant wouldn't get any ideas that he was actually welcome to come on the stream. But unfortunately, he didn't get the message. So just kidding. We love Brant. He's awesome. So speaking of getting away from me being rude for no reason. Bilbo says, Andy, I loved your work on Libris Mortis. Still one of my favorite splats.
Thank you.
I assume
Taking
you got to
me
tell
back
me
a
what that
ways.
is now.
That Libris Mortis, the Book of the Undead. That was a book for. Oh damn, was that? Now I'm forgetting exactly how long ago that was. That was. That was
which version of D&D
yeah. That
it
was like a late 3.5 edition book. I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, man. It's been a while. Yeah, that was one of the last. That may have been. That was one of the very last books that I was a principal significant designer on before I moved into a more sort of rules development editorial role, which is a weird processy thing. But basically, I moved from being the principal writer to somebody who helped other people's work get better. So yeah, that was a fun one. I worked on that one with Bruce Cordell, who is one of the nicest and most gifted writers and designers I have ever had the pleasure to work with. Just 100% super guy. You would never imagine that this sort of quiet, normal-seeming, unassuming guy has such depths of bizarre design writing. Like he was one of our masters of writing Cthulhian lore and horrible undead stories. Like it was a wellspring of this sinister stuff, and the nicest guy you could ever meet. So.
Blaze Experience wants to know if you help with things as simple as like naming the vehicles, or is it only just the more in-depth text?
I try to be involved in naming wherever I can because I love naming and I think it's really important. So yeah. I didn't name all those vehicles, but a lot of them, and I certainly saw all the names before we made any of them public, or at least I tried. If I didn't, it's on me, not on whoever wrote them.
Yeah, naming stuff is weirdly one of the most fun parts of our job, and I don't know exactly what's so special about names, but it's like a name sort of lends a kind of a character to something that goes beyond the visuals and the functionality of it. It's like it sort of ties it all together and it changes the way people think about it.
A great name for anything just makes the thing seem better and makes everything around it seem better too, which is a really vague statement, but if you think about it, think about here's a weird one. Think about the Pokemon whose names resonate with you. And ask yourself why. What is it about it? Is it that it captures the visual aspect of it? Does it capture the flavor of the creature's powers? Does it help capture the world? Odds are it's one or more of those things. And those are not trivial tasks. I guarantee you, particularly in case of Pokemon, where odds are those names were written by somebody who was not the original designer because they had to be localized in many cases.
Yeah, that's right.
So, yeah, naming stuff is fabulous. It's world building, it's storytelling, it's marketing, it's all those things wrapped up in one.
Yeah, it's kind of like putting a frame around the rest of the work that went into it, right? Like a lot of a lot of what makes a painting work is where the frame is, and like where the edges are, and how it's presented to you. Like, did you see it in a museum? Is it on somebody's wall? What's the setting? And I feel like the name of something kind of provides a lot of that background. Like, it's the tag that your brain puts on that thing, and it gives it so much context, and so in sort of a subtle way, it shapes the way you think about that thing. And so a good name can make a really positive difference, and a bad name can make something kind of just not feel as good.
Yeah, I mean it's often the first thing you see or read about an object, whether it's a monster name or naming magic items or spells in D&D is a real big deal. Like how much of it needs to be the effect versus telling the story of the world or the creator of the spell. It's fascinating stuff. I love it. One of the early things I did at Undead Labs was helping to name all the critters in Moonrise, and that was that same sort of aspect of like, what name can we come up with for this guy that tells you in 2 or 3 syllables what the creator does in the world and how scary it is or how cute it is. Like, fascinating challenge.
So are you inverted like me, or are you just struggling with my control scheme?
No,
Okay.
we have that. We both have that same weird mutant gene. I don't know where it came from, what game I played first that was that way, because I don't play nearly as many computer games as you do.
Well, so for me, like the very first time I played, so I guess the first shooter I played on console was GoldenEye, but I didn't play very much of it, and I think GoldenEye worked kind of like Doom, like aiming up and down wasn't a huge part of the experience. And so I think the first game I played where aiming up and down really did matter was an early build of Halo, where I wasn't in the industry yet, but I visited some friends who were game developers, and they had an early build of Halo available to check out that Microsoft had shared with them. And so I tried that, and I was like, I can't do this at all. What? Like, I played shooters with a mouse and a keyboard. I knew that I could play them, but I was like, what is wrong with me? And it was standard. And so I just absolutely could not deal with it. I was terrible at it.
Yeah.
And then the next time when I actually bought Halo for reals, and I tried out inverting it, and immediately it worked for me. So it's like something in my brain was already geared up to be inverted before I ever even touched the controller in a shooter.
Push the stick forward means lean your head forward.
Leaning your head forward, yeah,
Push the
exactly.
back means lean back, yeah.
Somehow my nervous system decided that's how it works.
Sorry about the sound on that. That must have been terrible. I'm a bad voice actor because I do not stay on mic.
I'm pretty sure this mic is actually pretty good. Like, hopefully it's not capturing the television, but it should be capturing everything in front of it. So you should be all right. I thought you were apologizing because like your neck had cracked or something, but
No, don't lean away from the mic. Always stay facing the mic.
Tri-County Jackson wants to know, do you guys think your boss will ever join for a special guest on the stream? He's done it before, but it's pretty rare.
Which boss?
I assume they're talking about Jeff Strain.
Big boss, the big man,
the
the chief.
He and I did a stream one time a long time ago. I think it was the Halloween after State of Decay 1 was released. He and I did a stream at Microsoft where we showed up in costume. We were wearing, I think, a couple of, I think I had a pig mask on and he had a horse mask on, and we tried to do the game that way, and it was so hot and sweaty under those things, we eventually had to take them off. But that was a lot of fun, but, Jeff's got, the bigger this studio gets, the bigger Jeff's job gets. And so dragging him in here to do a stream is something we usually don't ask. We try to spend our time getting to know a lot of the folks you really might not meet. I mean, you've seen a lot of videos of Jeff probably if you've been tracking State of Decay online. You see a lot of videos of Jeff talking. You don't always get to see videos of Andy talking, and so we try to grab folks who might not necessarily get to be as well known. You might not get to know what their job is.
Jeff does not need any help with PR.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, well, I can now claim the Chung Dynasty restaurant.
So, so Rage's Brute was saying actually he wants to see Foggy on here. So we should have Foggy on here one of these days. I'll go ask him if he wants to be on one of these streams.
He's not too big for us.
He's a so we do these Dev of the Month streams where, for those of you who've joined us recently, there's an article over on our website about Andy, where he kind of explains his job and where he comes from and stuff like that. And we've been doing these Dev of the Month things where we do an article about somebody, then if they're interested, we bring them on the stream to kind of meet you guys in person. Foggy probably wouldn't do a Dev of the Month, mostly just because, when you're a boss, you try to give the limelight to the folks who work for you. You don't usually try to hog a bunch of it for yourself. And so I don't think he's going to be one of our Dev of the Months for quite some time, but that doesn't mean he can't come on the stream. We can do a sort of a special event one of these days and have him in here, and I think that'd be pretty cool. I'm sure you guys have lots of questions for him. And I'll have a lot of fun dodging those questions and not having to answer them because my boss is going to be in the room.
Oh, yeah, I got him. That's timing.
I can breathe easier without so many damn infestations.
Yeah, seriously. Why are there infestations in the game? Yeah, naming the characters is actually probably one of my favorite parts of my job. Speaking of naming,
you went all out.
I put way more effort into it than I probably should have.
That's classic. Right? That's classic design of all aspects, right? Designing whatever it is. If you're responsible for designing something and you really like that thing and value that thing, you're gonna put way more effort in than it probably deserves.
But yeah,
you try not to ever tell your producers that.
Yeah, my favorite thing is watching. There's some folks who like to post their favorite characters on our Facebook wall, on our Facebook page, which is really great, by the way. You should all do that too if you have favorite characters. But my favorite thing is seeing what names that they got. So I have this friend who he works at Bethesda. His name is Emil Pagliarulo. I can't say his last name without stumbling on it because it's so complicated. And I'm sorry, Emil. Not that he ever watches this. But I put his first name and his last name separately into the game.
They showed up together?
Yeah, and so somebody said, hey, check out this awesome character I got. And the character showed up. His nickname was Vax, but his name was Emil Pagliarulo. And I was like, holy crap, it's Emil! so I sent a screenshot of it to Emil and got his reaction, and then shared his reaction. Yeah, so it's like one of the top designers of like Fallout 4 and Skyrim is also in our game, apparently. He said, I can't put myself in my own games, but now I'm in yours, and so that made him feel good, and it's fun. It's fun because everybody at the studio got a chance to submit names of family members and friends and interesting nicknames of people that they knew or people that heard of, and so the game is it's got a mismatch of like I did a lot of research on just what the most popular names are from different cultures and language traditions, but then also included a ton of names that were people's family members and stuff like that. So there's a lot of Easter eggs, a ton of Easter eggs in our naming system, which is a lot of fun to do.
And of course, no human being will ever see even a fraction of the naming possibilities.
Oh yeah, because you got a last name, you got a first name, and you got a nickname, and that combo will be unique for every character, and there's thousands that it's pulling from. And so, yeah, the combinations are nigh endless. So Nathan wants to know, could you do a thing where if a character dies, you could pick them up and bury them back at your combat? That is a Red Dead Redemption level of interaction that actually sounds amazing. I would love to be able to do that.
We definitely, not to engage in the hindsight problem, but we definitely had hopes early on of being able to recognize character deaths in your community in a slightly more meaningful way, as with many features that eventually gets put on the sacrificed on the altar of would you like to do that or actually ship the game. So it didn't happen, but yeah, it would be nice if there were just a little more way that you could your people could recognize dead people. It is definitely it's an aspect of the post-apocalyptic fantasy that we're sort of missing, is that sort of mournful time when you've lost someone and how are we going to keep going on? How do we cope with this? How are we going to react with this?
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing out here. Just running around. All whacked on my Scooby Snacks.
So Naya Cyan says that their name is actually Zephaniah and they go by Naya for short. So I feel like I've got something close to that.
Name.
I've got Jeremiah with Maya as a nickname because that's also another game developer that I know. But I don't have Zephaniah with Naya. So yeah, that's in my head now. So yeah, that might very well make it into the game. I just realized that I've been totally ignoring the questions that that Megan and Wonder funneled to me, which is bad, especially because we don't have time, because we have to do a quiz. We're supposed to give something away, and we haven't done it yet because I just have too much fun talking to Andy. So let's do a quiz real quick. Hey guys,
It's
you
quiz
guys want
time.
to win a copy of the Year One Survival Edition? You're like, no, we're big fans of this game, and we already own the Year One Survival Edition. What are you talking about, idiot? But not only has Megan got a copy of the Year One Survival Edition that she's willing to send to whoever wins this quiz, but she's gonna open it up and let us all sign it for you if you give her permission to do that. So a signed copy, or not signed if you'd rather not, of the Year One Survival Edition will be yours if you're one of the first people who is randomly selected when you answer this question correctly. And the question is, this is from Lifeline. And the reason I chose this is because that was when Andy and I first started collaborating together. When he first joined the studio, he helped out with the writing on Lifeline, which I had already kicked off, and then he kind of took the reins and ran with it. This is about Lifeline, so cue up your Lifeline knowledge in your head, and here we go.
Wayback Machine.
What was the full name of the character who went by Kilo in Lifeline? Kilo was the main thing everybody called him, but he had a full name. What was that name?
Was it Kilogram?
Kilo? Yes. Was it? Yes, exactly. Was it Kilometer? There's all kinds of things it could have been, but you guys go and give us his first and last name. And the first several people will be entered into a random drawing, and somebody's going to get that potentially conditionally signed copy of the Year One Survival Edition. Looks like some folks
I'm not sure.
know the answer.
I'm not even sure I even remember that. I remember I remember what Kilo comes from.
So he was half Hawaiian and half Korean. And so his name is a combination of both of those
I remember
ancestries.
half of his name.
So somebody's like, Kilo Pi. Death R suggests Kilo Pi was his name.
No, I don't think that's correct.
That's not right. Somebody else suggested Jebediah Springfield. I don't think that's it.
So close, though. So very close. I mean, just if you had something different for the first half and the second half, you might have it.
So while we're waiting for our winners, and again, I apologize to Megan and Wonder for the fact that I completely forgot to keep track of the questions that they were funneling.
We're not responsible.
He's not responsible. I'm 100% responsible.
No, I mean, we're responsible. We're just not responsible.
Okay, gotcha. Let's see here. I want to see if there's anything that pops out. Like I really should desperately answer this.
Ooh, vitamins.
Okay, so here was a question for you.
All right.
What is your favorite State of Decay 1 character?
State of Decay 1 I mean, this is actually not hard at all. My favorite State of Decay 1 character is Sasquatch.
From Lifeline.
From
And also
Lifeline.
Breakdown, actually, in the Year One Survival Edition.
And then re-added into State of Decay 2 and a significant supporting player in the Daybreak expansion, a huge expansion of his dialogue. If you're not playing Daybreak, you are missing out on some prime Sasquatch funny. Jeffrey created that character, and then get rid of the zombie. There you go. And I had the pleasure of being able to write lots and lots of dialogue for him.
Man.
He is just a hoot. I can't get in that way. Just the sardonic, dark humor nature of this guy, coupled with the depth that he's actually way smarter than you think he is, and is actually pretty on the ball about a lot of things, but has fun playing the sort of backwoods Appalachian hick that he really is not, and the fact that he is voiced by one of our very favorite voice actors. This Pharaoh's gonna kill me.
Drew, the guy who played Marcus.
Yeah, sorry, Drew. I can't multitask very well. Sorry, especially when driving. Yes, Drew is one of our favorite guys to work with, and it was a blast to be able to bring him back in this game, voicing Sasquatch. So that was my favorite.
That question was from Gaming Incorporated. P1 Gamer wants to know, how long did it take you to write all this stuff?
That a long time is the short answer.
Is it just the entire development process, basically?
Yeah,
You just always writing something?
We started writing VO pretty early on. From a very early point, we had a basic idea of a lot of the features that were going to be in this game. For instance, there would be zombies. You would see them, you would shoot them, you would kill them. There would be stuff to scavenge, things like that I could have my team write VO for. So some of those early stuff we got into the pipeline real fast, within the first year, I would say, of development. And then as time went on, we got more specific with new features that would come on board. So it wasn't a solid writing, like we weren't writing 24/7 or even 40 hours a week, every week, that sort of thing. It more came in waves, but I would say easily months of writing work spread over the course of the 3+ years of development, by, like I say, upwards of 20 writers working from all over the country and even a couple of foreign countries. And then many hours in the recording booth working with the actors and directors and other engineers there. So a long time. It was definitely the majority of the work for me on the project, but certainly not all.
So we've got a winner. So our winner is from Twitch. And let's quickly get the right answer, though. The right answer is Kilahana Young.
Ah, Young, that's right.
Kilahana Young.
Kilahana was his first name. Young was, and he was and bonus points. Can you remember his rank?
Oh crap! I think he was a sergeant. Was he a sergeant?
I think he was a lieutenant.
Might have been.
Wasn't Daryl Vincent Royale?
Vince, yeah.
Vince, I think he was a sergeant.
Vince, maybe.
Anyway,
I could be wrong.
Young is the correct answer.
So, and the winner is Joe Bob 19 Full. So Joe Bob 19 Full, congratulations. He's from Twitch. Sometimes we do 3 winners. This time we only had the 1, so we're doing 1 winner this week. But yeah, Joe Bob Full, congratulations, and thanks for knowing enough about the game, paying enough attention to get that right. And so we are winding down. Let me see if we can get any of the just last couple of questions here. Blaze Experience wants to know, do you end up doing a lot of research for your job to make sure the stuff you're writing is accurate?
I often joke that I do not want to know what the federal government thinks of my Google search. Yes. Like it's crazy stuff, right? Like on a given day, I might research modern American military weaponry for some names and flavor text for a new round of weapons that we're doing, and then in the afternoon I'll research how long does gasoline last before it goes stale, or what kind of personal explosives can you make in your garage, and it's crazy, right? Or give me, like when I was working on Moonrise, I would just like to find lists of stuff that I could steal names from. Like, I want lists of all the trees in the world so I can riff on those for some plant-based creature names or things like that. So yeah. Research
for
is
the traits too. I ended up having to look up a lot of just careers I knew nothing about. To if I don't know anything about construction, but I need to say something in the voice of a construction worker,
right,
and then come up with a bunch of nicknames for a construction worker, I don't know anything about that.
Yeah.
So I just start looking up websites, that are internal websites for those communities, and just reading stuff that they're saying, and type in military nicknames and stuff like that, and try to get things I don't know enough about.
I remember when I was writing dialogue for the Marvel game, I wanted Captain America to have an exclamation that sounded like, oh yeah, this guy served in the army. And I knew there was some version of Ura that was army, but other versions of it that were from other arms of the military. And that's a thing you want to get right.
Yeah.
So I had to spend some time looking up what are these, and I now think I got it right, at least according to Wikipedia. Who knows? But random stuff like that you might spend an hour of research for one line of dialogue just because you want to get it right.
Yeah, I actually tried to do that same thing. I had several different military backgrounds that they didn't explicitly say I'm from this branch of the military, but they suggested it. And so I was going to try to put in the description the right version of Ura or Hoorah or whatever.
Yeah.
And eventually, a couple people looked at it, they're like, hey, did you get this right? Hey, did you get this right? I got so many questions. Did you get this right? That eventually I chickened out and just didn't do it. I was like, there's no way I'm gonna know for sure if I got it right or if I read something wrong somewhere,
Right.
messed it up. And the last thing I want to do is throw something in there because we got a lot of folks from the military who play our game and love our game. And the last thing I want to do is to just knock them out of the experience with something that a character who is putting themselves forward as a military character, having them say something wrong. You know.
Yep.
Because I mean, there's, any like group or fandom or, or society that I belong to, if somebody tries to represent it and gets it wrong, it's like I grew up, my family is from Utah, and I grew up Mormon, and whenever there's a Mormon character on a show, they get him completely horribly wrong.
Right.
And I'm just
From your perspective,
yeah,
right.
they use the jargon wrong.
Yeah.
They call things the wrong names.
It's
And-
almost like it's in that uncanny valley, right? If you're an expert in something, 90% right is awful.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you don't see the 90%, you see the 10%. Like I see this in, whenever somebody's trying to do even today, fiction about geeks or game players, and you're like, you're not one of us, are you? You looked on the internet and you watched an episode of Big Bang Theory and you thought you could talk geek, and like, no.
It's so easy to think that people who belong to groups you don't belong to can be distilled down to something simple that you could digest in 5 minutes, and that is never true.
Yeah.
100% of the time, that is wrong.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure that I made serious mistakes in
Yep.
some of the stuff that I was writing. I'm sure that you did too.
Yep.
Not out of a lack of caring, but sometimes just not even knowing what questions to ask.
Yep.
You know?
Attorneys can't watch,
Law and Order.
Cops can't watch police procedurals.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't watch anything you're an expert in.
Absolutely everything is always wrong. but when you get, when you have a job like this, you do at least get to get your stuff right, which, feels pretty good, right? Like I got to, there is actually a Utah name list in the game. It's a very, very small percentage. Like there's like a 0.6% chance or something your character will have a Utah name, but when I see one, I'm like, oh, that's from the Utah name list right there. I recognize those. Oh, if their last name is Hansen or Larson, they're probably from Utah, because that's what I grew up around. Anyway, okay, it's 3:03. We are out of time. And we're ending it
fireworks.
right with a fireworks display. That's how it should go. So thank you so much, Andy, for coming in and talking to us and giving us insights.
Glad
into
to be
writing
here,
for games.
Jeffrey.
And let's see here. I should we should look at Andy and say, look, that's him. If you guys have any more questions, especially I know a lot of you had questions that we missed. Feel free to hit us up on social media. I'm at Rangatang, and of course it's at Undead Labs. You can ask questions, and we love you guys. We're so glad that you're here, and thank you for supporting our game. And so talk to us and be back here next week. Remember, obviously, if you're here watching us live, you already know this is happening Tuesday at 2 o'clock, from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock Pacific time. But if you're watching this on YouTube later on, just realize we have changed our time. So come see us Tuesdays at 2. We're going to be doing it every week this year if we can, and we'd love to see you. So that's it, and we'll talk to you later.
Bye, everybody.